Some of the biggest threats to our health are the ones that operate in the shadows, affecting millions of people, often without them even knowing it. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a virus that has become a truly silent global epidemic.
Let's just start with a number. 296 million. That is the estimated number of people, right now, living with a chronic hepatitis B infection around the world. Just let that sink in. It's a staggering figure that immediately shows you the scale of what we're talking about.
And then there's this number. This is the human cost. Every single year, an estimated 820,000 people die from hepatitis B complications. We're talking mostly about long-term damage like liver scarring and liver cancer. It's a silent killer, and it's operating on a massive scale.
So yeah, these numbers, they paint a pretty stark picture, right? A silent global epidemic. Hepatitis B is a huge public health challenge, but one that often gets overlooked. So let's dive in and break down what this virus is, how it works, and most importantly, how we can fight back.
So what are we actually talking about here? At its core, we're talking about the hepatitis B virus, or HBV for short. It's a DNA virus, and man, it has a single-minded mission. It targets the main cells of your liver, these things called hepatocytes. It is laser-focused on this one vital organ.
Okay, so once this invisible enemy gets inside your body, how does it actually operate? Well, it's a fascinating and, frankly, a really clever process, which is exactly what makes this virus so persistent and so tough to get rid of.
First up, let's look at the target. This right here is a healthy human liver. It's an absolute workhorse, responsible for literally hundreds of critical functions in your body. And this is what the virus is going after. And here's the intruder. Once HBV gets into your bloodstream, it makes a beeline straight for the liver. This isn't a random attack, it's incredibly specific. It binds to receptors on the surface of your liver cells, basically using them like a key to unlock the door and get inside.
Now, once it's inside, this is where the virus gets really smart. It doesn't just, make a few copies of itself and leave. No. It inserts its own genetic material right into the nucleus of your liver cell, forming this thing called cccDNA. You can think of it like a permanent master blueprint that the cell is now forced to read, just churning out more and more viruses. And this is the key reason why chronic hepatitis B is so incredibly hard to cure.
But here's the real twist, the paradox of this whole thing. The virus itself isn't what's directly destroying the liver cells. The damage, all that inflammation and scarring, that's actually caused by our own immune system. Your T cells recognize the infected liver cells, and they destroy them to try to stop the virus from spreading. It's a classic case of friendly fire, when the battle to control the invader ends up destroying the battlefield itself.
Okay, so now we understand how the virus works, but how does it get from person to person? This is super important to know, not just for prevention, but for breaking down the stigma that so often surrounds this disease.
So the virus is found in really high concentrations in blood and a little less so in other body fluids. That means the main ways it spreads are through blood, like from needle stick injuries, through sexual contact, and this one is absolutely critical, from an infected mother to her baby at birth. That's known as perinatal transmission.
And just to put into perspective how easily this thing can spread, get this. Public health data shows us something pretty startling. HBV is 50 to 100 times more infectious than HIV. I'm just going to say that again, 50 to 100 times more. That single fact underscores why prevention and vaccination are just so incredibly important. Now, when someone gets infected with hepatitis B, the story can go in two totally different directions. It can be a short-term, acute illness that your body fights off, or it could become a lifelong, chronic condition. And which path it takes? Well, that depends almost entirely on one single factor.
And that one factor is age. Just look at the difference on this chart. It's night and day. If a healthy adult gets infected, they only have about a 5% chance of it becoming chronic. Their immune system usually clears the virus. But for a newborn baby infected at birth, that risk skyrockets to 90%. This is the critical piece of the puzzle that drives our entire global strategy for infant vaccination.
So what does a chronic, decades-long infection actually do to you? Well, the visual here is stark. On the left, a healthy liver. On the right, a liver with cirrhosis, that's severe scarring caused by years of that immune system, friendly fire. The healthy, functional tissue gets replaced by scar tissue, and the liver just starts to fail.
This long-term damage leads to some devastating complications. We're talking cirrhosis, outright liver failure, and maybe most importantly, hepatocellular carcinoma, which is a type of liver cancer. In fact, chronic hepatitis B is one of the leading causes of liver cancer worldwide. So the crucial point is really simple. Prevent the infection, and you prevent the cancer.
Okay, we've spent a lot of time on the problem, but the good news, and it is great news, is that we have an incredibly powerful solution in our arsenal. We have vaccination. This is our ultimate shield against the virus.
And this isn't just any old vaccine. This was a monumental achievement in the history of medicine. The hepatitis B vaccine isn't just a vaccine against a virus, it's an anti-cancer vaccine. It was the very first one ever developed that was proven to prevent a human cancer. It's a true game changer.
And it is so effective. The standard series is just 3 doses, starting with a critical dose that's given within 24 hours of birth. This simple schedule provides over 95% protection against a lifelong cancer-causing virus. Just incredible.
You know, you often hear about hepatitis B and C together, and this comparison is really helpful. While they both attack the liver, there's a key difference. For hepatitis C, we now have these amazing treatments that can cure it, but we don't have a vaccine. For hepatitis B, we have treatments to suppress the virus, but most importantly, we have that incredibly effective vaccine to prevent you from getting infected in the first place.
This really shows us the whole picture, the chain of infection, and exactly how we can break it. Sure, safe practices in healthcare can interrupt it, but our most powerful tool by far is vaccination, which protects the person directly, making them immune before the virus even has a chance.
So, we end here. The science is clear, the tools are proven, and the vaccine is one of the greatest public health victories of our time. It can prevent millions of deaths from liver disease and cancer. The question that remains for all of us is, what will it take to make sure everyone, everywhere, is protected? What will it take to finish the job?